Alrighty. It's that time.
Well.
You guys have been waiting a whole week. We're back.
It's okay. We're here. We made it.
Do not fret, Chico.
Don't be discouraged.
Don't be discouraged. That is from the movie The Secret Window, starring Johnny Depp. It's based on a short story called Secret Window, Secret Garden.
Yeah.
By Mr. Stephen King.
And I've seen the movie so many times, it's even a mystery to me.
Really good movie if you haven't seen it. We're back. Today is episode 39, and we're talking about the unsung heroes of the Star Wars prequels. Yep. And what we mean by that is not the typical best sidekick. We're talking about tiny little minuscule things that played a big role in the Star Wars galaxy being shaped.
Some of them played a bigger little role.
Yeah.
As the story allows.
And some of the characters are bigger characters, but something small that they do changes everything. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking about that. And there's a little bit of news, some new stuff coming out, new book about Star Wars characters coming out sometime in November, I want to say. Has a lot to say about your favorite Supreme Leader. That's not Kylo Ren. I'm going to correct myself while I'm talking. But we definitely want to do a Snoke episode soon. That's been on my mind lately. But if you are looking for other Star Wars podcasts, Blast Points every October does Snoketoberfest. And so I'm sure they're covering this, so we'll cover it at a later date. But great podcast if you want to check out another one. But today we're talking about the unsung heroes of the Star Wars prequels. And we want to jump into that. We're only going to cover the prequels because, one, we don't think they get enough love.
Also,
and
because
two,
we were trying to think of a lot of things.
If we did all the movies, you'd be here for all the time.
We had only gotten through the prequels, and I was like, this is like more than an episode. If we did the whole thing, it would be multiple episodes. And we already have a plan for next week. So it's episode 39, 3 of 9. We're going to talk about the prequels.
Oh, my gosh. And then next week, I guess we'll give you a sneak peek, a heads up. It's our 40th episode.
Yep.
So first of all, congrats to both of y'all. We're 40 episodes in. That's pretty cool. And 2020 is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. And so we're going to talk about The Empire Strikes Back, the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. And that's how I feel.
Wow.
Although I do believe The Rise of Skywalker is much higher than most folks. So when I was leaving the theater, episode 9, I was like, is it going to dethrone? But as time has gone on, The Empire Strikes Back has stayed number 1 in my heart. But we're going to talk about just reminiscing, nostalgia,
yep.
what makes it such a great Star Wars movie, and so on and so forth. But that's next week. This week we're talking about, man, if things did not happen in a certain way, and in some of these instances, very specific ways, things would be totally different.
Things would be very different. It's hard to imagine Star Wars without all the little things that make it Star Wars, right? But when you think about all the little details and how they all play together, the story could have been very different without the inclusion of these little teensy-teensy details.
Mm-hmm. Just in case you were lost, you are listening to
The Chiss Ascendancy. Good save us.
Yeah, you were thinking something's missing here, and there it was, the last puzzle piece.
You thought you had us.
You complete me. So let's just jump right into it. So
head first,
unsung heroes of the Shallow End. Next week, we're back. We're in a freaking wheelchair. We're talking about the unsung heroes of the prequels. I'm counting how many times I can say that before we actually start the show.
I think we're up to 23.
Anyways, so we will start from the top. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
From the top?
Everyone's favorite movie. Episode 1, no, for real though, I love all the Star Wars movies, but Episode 1 does have a special place in my heart.
Episode 1 has a lot of rewatchability for me.
That's what I'm saying. Dude, so many times
Even
I'm
if
like...
it's just for the memes, I'm like, there it is, he said it.
For the memes. Yeah, dude, freaking Episode 1 is so great. Really think about this. Brought in some of the greatest characters of Star Wars all time. It's the first time...
see a victory.
I'm gonna see victory. Dude, I showed Macy that one where it's like, even when I don't say it, and it's like, it's working! Dude, I was like, she was like crying, laughing in the kitchen this morning.
Good.
So funny. Starting from Episode 1, you think about this. It's where you meet Mace Windu. It's where you meet Qui-Gon Jinn. It's where you meet Darth Maul. It's where you meet Anakin Skywalker as Anakin Skywalker, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's where you meet Jar Jar Binks, love him or hate him. Been a big part of the franchise ever since for different reasons. It's where you meet Sebulba. It's where you meet Watto. What did we do without Watto?
What a killer cast of creatures.
Mine things don't work on me.
I think about like portions of
memes.
Episode 1, and like they seem isolated, but it's a pretty full movie.
Where would we be in 2020? It's been a rough year, and every once in a while, I just have to sit and take a hot bath and think, they're still boss nass. I couldn't do it because I was smiling. If I have to completely loosen my cheeks,
Get
LOL.
those jowls all loose.
Hang on.
No, it's okay.
You're gonna shield it from the sound.
Yes, it won't be that loud.
Oh, okay. I can't do it. I gotta do it randomly throughout the episode. I'm smiling too much. Okay, so right from the get-go, we're at the beginning of Episode 1. Some crazy things are happening, and they've got to get off Naboo. Mm-hmm. We've got to get the Queen off of Naboo because the Trade Federation, which super underrated score,
real quick,
the invasion of Naboo.
Sometimes when I'm signing on to Xbox Live, I'll just have that talk. I'll just have that play in the background, and I'll be like, "What's up, boys?" And I'm like, "Bam, bam, 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 bam."
You go into Warzone like that?
Yeah. It feels dramatic.
That's awesome.
You are being invaded. If we're going in a chronological order,
yeah,
we, for better or for worse, do owe a little bit of allegiance to everybody's best-known Gungan. For the sake of saving himself from being blasted into oblivion.
Woo woo!
He helped the Jedi find Oda Gunga.
Jar Jar Train!
Which was their passage through the planet core.
The planet core.
So that they could get to Padme. Get to the Queen.
And if it wasn't for Jar Jar, we would have never gotten to Oda Gunga, and we never would have met Captain Tarfles. Super dope guy. Yeah. And we never would have saw that cool, never to be seen again, giant crocodile meets Godzilla thing that just eats that freaking
Well, and let's talk about, if you listen to the soundtrack for The Phantom Menace, the droid invasion of Naboo is the same track as visiting Oda Gunga. So, two very slept-on pieces of music there.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. That's the song that's playing whenever you first start that one terrible flying game.
Pilot's game, yeah.
They were lulling me into thinking it was going to be a good game, and then I was like, we were 6. But
Sector not clear. Sector not clear.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, crash. All right, restart. I'm nervous. 3, 2, 1, crash.
But yeah, so we stumble into Jar Jar. Jar Jar gives Qui-Gon the hug and snug underneath the droid carrier, which is one of the coolest ships in Star Wars, by the way.
That is called an MTT. There you go.
There you go.
Pretty cool. You know what I've always wondered? Okay, so if you have whatever, I can't remember what the repulsor lift, I guess, is the system that pushes ships in Star Wars off of the ground. You would think, in my mind, how it works is similar to, like, you have boats that hover and things like that, military craft.
Somebody stole my hover shoes. I can't hover.
I can't glide. But you
Seinfeld in the future.
Stole your hover shoes. But I just always imagine that there's just an immense amount of pressure underneath those things that are pushing speeders and things off the ground. But then you have Qui-Gon and Jar Jar just chilling under there eating peanuts.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would think it would have something to do with magnetic fields.
So you don't get squashed, but your credit cards are screwed.
Yeah, just...
There you go.
The credits will not do fine.
No, they won't. Watto's so cool.
What a guy.
What a cheapo.
Oh yeah.
And so you've got the freaking Jar Jar to start things off.
Mm-hmm. So we're back. We're still on Naboo.
Yeah.
We've rescued the princess,
you
the queen, I guess.
Contact me. I like that
Santa
guy.
Claus.
C.O. Bibble.
His name is Santa Claus. So we're getting off of Naboo, right? And there's a blockade. Trade Federation's doing the dirty.
Yep.
And we're running
When I was
blockade.
younger, I thought that the middle of the Trade Federation ships, I was like, so that's where the Death Star came from. Dude, I remember when episode 1 came out, our older brother, one of the only cool things that he did for me as a kid growing up, he took me to a local, like, it was like a baseball card store when baseball cards were still, like, way bigger. And they had Star Wars cards, and I had, like, $5 to my name. You know, I was a little kid, and I was like, I want $5. I was at Vegas. I was like, I'll take 5 on Star Wars cards. And so I got the Star Wars cards. It was like you got a full deck of like all the characters from that movie. Mm-hmm. And the good guy cards had Obi-Wan on the back and
nice
a bluish
sheen.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I remember.
And the bad guys had Darth Maul.
And they had a nice reddish sheen.
Exactly. I came home one day from school, and my mother-in-law, had thrown away all the bad guy cards because Darth Maul looked like the devil. And I am not freaking kidding you, readers at home.
Welcome to my childhood. I recently took the Spanish Inquisition when I had somebody ask me all the movies that I'd seen, because they were talking about Halloween movies, and they're like, Casper, and I was like, nope. Scooby-Doo? Nope. Halloween Town? And I was like, the name Halloween's in the movie. No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I got asked recently what my favorite Halloween movie was, and I said, Ernest Scared Stupid. And I had to sneak that one in the house. Turns out evil spirits can be controlled by milk. So if you guys thought The Rise of Skywalker had a bad storyline, go watch Ernest Scared Stupid. Trolls are eating children, but they can be scared off by milk.
Once grounded for a week by sneaking Dumb and Dumber into the house. You remember that?
Witchcraft.
It was worth it.
So, yeah. So she threw away all the dark side cards, and I remember being so pissed because I was when I was a kid. Now looking back on it, one of my favorite things was the battle droids. When episode 1 came out. By the time episode 2 came out, Jango Fett was there and battle droids were relevant. But episode 1 came out and I was like, no, anything on the bathroom. Like, I was just, everything was in battle droid voice. They had different colors, so that was cool. They had everything in, like, the leaders had the yellow dots and all, like, blue and all this stuff. So I was like, man, these are so cool. Darth Maul, of course, was crazy. And so anyways, my mom threw away all my bad guy cards, and I was like, yo, Mom, what's going on with this? And I started crying, all right? I was, however old I was, 5. And she goes, if you don't dry up your tears, I'm going to throw away your good guy cards. And I was like, what? Dude.
If anybody ever thinks that Josiah and I are being severe, know that we're acting in Grace the best that we know how. This is how we were raised.
Come on, guys. Give us a break.
I threw away your toy, cry, I'll throw away the rest of them. Say thank you.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah, what the heck? Now I'm going to go on the eBay today and spend a stupid amount of money buying the episode 1 cards to get them back.
Anyway, so we're running the blockade, trying to get off Naboo finally again.
And
I feel like I'm there.
The shields
still trying to get off Naboo.
Going down.
Yeah, and you know what? That little droid did it.
R2-D2, the first time you see R2-D2 in the prequels, he is the last astromech. Which is kind of a cool concept because, of course, growing up with Star Wars, the first one to come out is episode 4. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, yeah, R2-D2, what's the big deal? Yeah. But think about that, is that he was he was just one of a fleet of R2 units. One of them that was really cool looking, I can't remember the name of the droid, but he looks like a Coca-Cola can. He's like red and silver. He gets blasted to smithereens.
Blasted into oblivion.
And so, yeah, R2 is the last droid, and he fixes the shields and gets them off of the
they run the blockade. They get their power back up for their shields, and then but their hyperdrive is still leaking, so they gotta
go to Tatooine. And there's funny because
which is a relatively neutral system, even though it's very corrupt.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's
which is why they chose it. I don't know if you ever paid that much attention.
Yeah, it's neutral. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if it was Rick Oley, the white dude that's the pilot, or if it's Captain Panaka, the guy with the bad attitude.
We know who he is.
But one of them says, I think it's Panaka, because he'd be like, we'd be sitting ducks. And I saw a meme where He's like, we can't go there. We'd be sitting ducks. And Qui-Gon looks at him and goes, what the F is a duck?
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
I love stuff like that, dude. Where Star Wars
if there was a planet that was going to have ducks, it would be Naboo.
Yeah. There's literally birds.
I'm pretty sure there are loons.
Remember they break the surface? And yeah, it was loons. They're like, you can tell because of the wings. But anyways, R2 saves the day. They make it to Tatooine, so it's not their preferred destination, but it's definitely a destination that's not back on Naboo, getting destroyed by the Neimoidians. And then here's a really, really big one. And I'll start this, and then you take it. Qui-Gon takes interest into
little slave boy
Anakin. I think you have.
Sandstorms are very, very dangerous.
I saw a hilarious meme the other day where it was Anakin is like, "Are you an angel?" And Padme goes, "Shut up, slave!" And it says, "Directed by George Lucas."
That's where it ends.
That's the whole story, bro. But Qui-Gon really notices that there's potential in Anakin. He senses the Force in him strongly.
You know what I've always been curious about?
What's that?
How did they Wi-Fi a blood sample?
Sending it in. Yeah.
Because you got to think, if that little thing had the ability to process it, then he could just read the results.
Oh my God.
Right?
It just kind of shows the limitations of technology at the time. You know how it works. You have to fax it in, guys. Come on. What's the big deal? Liam faxes the blood in. I don't understand the question. And they're like, George, if it can read it, why can't it just say the results? And he's like, you're talking nonsense. What is this? Now I'm going to be able to send you...
Now his little handheld device has a screen, too. What is this, Star Wars in real life?
I guess I'll just send a letter. We'll call it a text.
You want me to text him a smell next? Is that what you'd like?
What if there was a website where you could just anyone could post a video? YouTube or something. That's so funny. But yeah, that's a good question. I think maybe he sees there is, well...
It's totally Obi-Wan. He's in there fixing the ship, which, by the way, you see him repairing the ship in The Phantom Menace.
Underrated.
And in the book, Master and Apprentice, Obi-Wan is like a ship fiend. He wants to know about all the ships. He loves flying. And he knows how to repair all the ships. He's running diagnostics, helping the pilot fix things. Very cool stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's just a little bit of Obi-Wan's character that I think is overlooked quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because in Master and Apprentice, he's like, I'm going to be the first one to see them all.
Yeah, right.
And then you hear Anakin say something very similar in Episode 1. But
I saw a meme that when Qui-Gon and Anakin are going away from Darth Maul, and Darth Maul's about to just try and plaster this kid. Has no idea who he is, by the way.
He's just gonna try and plaster
this kid.
He's just a bad man.
And Qui-Gon goes, Anakin, duck! And Anakin drops, and then you see a picture of Obi-Wan on the ship, and he's smirking. He's like, so now that kid thinks the low ground is safe. Just storing it away in his file for later.
Dude, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Because we all know that Obi-Wan hated Anakin. He's like, why do I, since we picked up yet another pathetic life form?
Dude, it's so funny because...
and then he hates him all of Episode 2, and then Episode 3, they're finally friends. Like when you're like, hey, Dad, can we get a dog? And Dad's like, no. And then 3 weeks later, you see the dad, and he's the one the dog's sleeping on his lap.
Beethoven, basically.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw a meme where it was like, Anakin Duck, and it's like, you're not the boss of me. And it's Darth Maul running over Anakin, and it says, written by George Lucas.
No, there's sand.
But, yeah, so Qui-Gon takes a liking to Anakin, and he just senses that he has an incredible future ahead of him. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny. It's a little bit shisty, but I dig it. But there's this moment where he wants to... it's kind of weird because... It kind of shows the...
Qui-Gon is definitely not the Jedi of moral absolutes, by the way.
No. Yeah, he follows the rules, but it doesn't mean he can't get laid, to quote Rael Averross.
Qui-Gon is the master of moral relativism.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? If it serves my purpose, I think it's the right thing to do.
Turns out he was right. But it's interesting because you kind of see the hypocrisy of slave ownership on Tatooine because he's like... I'll put my slave out there, and if he dies, he dies for the pod race or whatever, mm-hmm. He doesn't really care about him. I mean, I think Watto's a decent individual or whatever.
Annie? Little Annie?
Oh, it is you. I like when he gets excited, his wings do like that. But there's this moment where he's like, if he wins, you keep the parts from his pod, which is Anakin's pod,
right?
And I'll take the boy and his mother. Which my other question is, what was the plan with that? Anakin trains and he does Qui-Gon take in Shmi?
No, I think maybe he was just trying to get her out of there because he didn't believe in slavery.
Would.
I think he had. Or maybe one could think that he knew that Watto would turn down the idea of giving him 2 slaves, but if he asked for 2, one would seem more reasonable.
Ooh, I want a $25,000 raise.
Right.
15 at the most. Deal.
Yeah. I would have taken 10, idiot.
Dude, that's so funny. What's that? Is it on The Office where he's like... Oh,
he's like, hey, when you go in there, tell him we should stock more double tab manila file folders. And he's like, we don't carry double tab manila file folders. He's like, oh, yes, we do. And he's like, I'm actually going to ask for a pay decrease. And Dwight goes, that is so stupid. Why would you do that? What if you actually get it? And then Jim goes, then I win.
Dude, that's so funny. Dude, I can't remember. There's a story I'm thinking of where there's a character that's like... it's a story of... it's actually a real story. It's Ulysses S. Grant. He was given $50 to buy a horse, and he said that his dad said, go and buy this horse, Ulysses, and here's $20 or $50. I don't know how money worked back then, but it was basically like... I
don't know how money
I think it was $20, and he said, offer him 10, and the max you can give him is 20, right? So Ulysses S. Grant goes down there, and he goes... All right, I want to buy this horse. I can give you $10. And if you don't want that, I can give you 20. And he goes, all right, 20 it is. And they actually used to make fun of him. And his name was not Ulysses S. Grant. It was Ulysses. I can't remember what his middle name started with. But, and then anyways, he didn't like that name. And so he actually started going by Sam because...
Good name.
When they misread his application at West Point, it said Ulysses S. Grant, and they were like, Uncle Sam Grant, wow, you were born to be in the military, and they changed his whole life. But there you go. So yeah,
reminds me of when we were in Mexico and the guy wanted to charge me $20 for sunglasses, and I know I only had $5 in my pocket, and I was like, 20, I'll give you 2, and then worked my way up to 5. Got some sunglasses.
Dude, I remember you were so proud. That was so funny.
Yeah.
But
swindled that guy.
One of the major points in Star Wars history is the old swindle that Qui-Gon pulls when they gamble for...
You think you're some kind of a Jedi? Why would you handle it like that?
Yeah, he says, no pod is worth 2 slaves. Not even, not by a long shot. And he says, okay, well then we'll chance it. And he says... blue the boy, red his mother.
And it's never been explicitly stated, but I always suspected it was a loaded die. But I guarantee you that's
a loaded die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Watto throws it, and he's like, yeah, you know what's super loaded? The Force. And he turns it on blue, and he's like...
The Force reloaded.
Yeah, and he says he's not going to win anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. Oh, man, it's so crazy.
But anyway, so Obi-Wan... or I guess Qui-Gon takes a liking to this kid. They take him wherever they go.
Yep.
But what really is important is that even when the Jedi refuse to train Anakin, he makes Obi-Wan swear that he'll train Anakin. So he made sure that his death was not in vain. That if he was going to die, he was going to use it to manipulate Obi-Wan into training somebody who the Jedi were going to reject. And and the mini collection of maneuvers that Qui-Gon pulls in the Phantom Menace. We have the continuation of the Skywalker saga, rather.
It's so crazy because that one little die is everything. Everything goes from that, and so that's a huge one. And then he makes Obi-Wan promise to train him, and goes from there. And he's really training Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon. He's training Anakin for Qui-Gon's sake. Dave Filoni talks about this in Disney Gallery with The Mandalorian, and he says that Anakin doesn't experience true selflessness until Luke sacrifices his life to save him. And in that moment, 40-something years later, 50 years later, Anakin realizes he has the opportunity to be the father that he never had. Man, what a heart-wrenching moment. Dude, I could watch Dave Filoni talk about Star Wars for hours. But episode 1, R2 saves Padme's ship. Qui-Gon loads the dice against Watto. Can't trick the trickster.
Yep.
Pulled a fast one on him.
And the Gungans kind of saved the day a little bit.
And then the Gungans saved the day.
Even though let's be honest, they lost that battle.
Oh, dude, they were getting wrecked.
Got trashed.
The shield was cool. They
cool.
needed to be able to fire.
They needed a bigger Bronchiosaurus.
That freaking... Dude, that thing got destroyed pronto.
Yeah.
But yeah, they needed to be able to fire from within the shield. Couldn't do it.
Not
and those boobas they're not working for you. Episode 2. This is a good one. You called this one from the start.
Yeah. So let's give credit to where credit's due. Corday, as we would say, did her job, but she died so that Padme could live. Mm-hmm. If Padme died at any given time, obviously Star Wars would have changed drastically.
Right.
We knew she had to live. It's just one of those things. But thanks to Corday, Padme survived the attempt on Padme's life.
That left her scarred and deformed.
But this leads us to another train of thought, which is the fact that Jango Fett and Jango Fett, Zam Wessel, were making an attempt on Padme's life, which ultimately led to the manhunt that took Obi-Wan to Kamino.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because it's a two-headed monster. This was a huge one because...
it's multifaceted, this one. It reminds me, I saw a meme where a hitman got arrested, and it was basically almost exactly like Star Wars, where a hitman was hired by a hitman, who was hired by a hitman, who was hired by a hitman, who was hired by a hitman. It's literally 5 guys.
Really?
They all went to prison together, and it was like the first one hired, a guy who hired a guy who hired a guy. So it's kind of like, Palpatine got Dooku to do his thing, who got... freaking Jango, who got Zam, who got those little centipedes.
Yeah, I never understood why the very beginning, because Zam is also the one who sets the bomb at the very beginning of episode 2. Because if you think about it, whenever they meet up and he hands her the worms, he says, "There could be no mistakes this time." Which, there you go. You're welcome. That's my Jango Fett impersonation. But it's interesting because I never got the concept, why not just go do it himself? Is it because it's too political and it'd be hot water if he got busted?
I think it's just because he knew that he was important to greater things. Like, he had other business to attend to.
But his DNA had already started to be used for the clones.
Yeah, but we think about the Clone Wars where they didn't have the template anymore and the quality of the clones was starting to suffer. You know what I mean? They kind of needed him to hang around.
Yeah, interesting. He hires out to Zam. I always wondered if Zam and him had a thing.
No.
Or if maybe it was like that new Netflix show Ratchet, and she's Bucket, and he's the doctor.
Dr. Hanover.
Dude, yeah, because she's
I find you repulsive.
If you talk to me again,
I will strike you.
I will strike you in the face.
I will strike you in the face.
Dude, I was like dying laughing at that part. But so Jango hires Zam, who sets the bomb, and then after that, there could be no mistakes this time. And they sick those disgusting centipedes on Padme. R2 literally sleeping on the job.
Yeah, R2 drops the ball pretty bad on this
So let's go ahead and strike him from episode 1 because he almost gives it up in episode 2. And then these worms... Anakin saves Padme, but the double attempt on her life forces her into hiding, which is really starts to, like you said, it's a two-edged sword. It's
2 important things come from this. One, let's talk about my guy. So Obi-Wan's on the manhunt. Starts when he jumps out the window and clings onto that little robot, which I guess is another hire out.
Remember that cool toy?
Yeah, I was just about to talk about that.
Okay,
That's my favorite Obi-Wan figure of all time. He had a magnet in his hand that never stuck to the droid, but I always like to think that maybe I could get him to do it if I held it there long enough.
Also, can we talk about how the magnet was as big as this microphone in his hand?
Yeah, it stuck like way out, but still wasn't strong. Anyway.
It was a cool idea, though.
He goes on that hunt, and he eventually, thanks to... You lost him. I can't believe it. He went completely the other way.
The other way.
And then, they get Zam.
They get to Zam.
Obi-Wan does an Obi-Wan, chops her arm off in the middle of a crowded bar.
You get the first awkward moment from Anakin where he goes, "Tell us now!" Every single time I'm like, tone it down. I'm like,
please tell us. All right, that's been too long. Tell us now! You see a little bit of his Kylo in there?
Yeah. Except for he doesn't have Adam Driver's voice. So there's a big difference.
You know what? I'm not going to mock anybody for not having the voice that they want.
You know what? No, I love Hayden Christensen, and I wish I could give him a hug right now. But his voice definitely does not... He doesn't have a good yelling voice, is what I'm saying. Which, that's okay.
Me neither. But anyway, so...
But you have crazy eyes.
Thanks.
I feel like it would look more
Thanks,
natural.
I guess.
I think that Hayden Christensen, sometimes when he's getting into...
because he's Canadian.
He's so nice.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
He's two-dimensional. Tell us now, eh? Tell us now.
Just kidding, Hayden. We love you. But anyway, so the Camino dart goes into Zam's neck.
Yep.
And
she turns from hot to ugly in 2 seconds.
Do you really think she was attractive?
She was a human being, which is much more attractive than any Claudite, yes.
And so...
she's okay.
Obi-Wan had that dart, and he goes to his boy Dex, who apparently is the most knowledgeable diner owner in the entire galaxy.
I specialize in pancakes and assassination.
I think I lay awake at night thinking about that Obi-Wan's like, Jedi archives are incomplete. You know who would know? Dex. The guy who runs a diner.
Dude, yeah.
Like, that was his first go-to. He doesn't go to anybody else. He goes straight to
make
Dex.
sure that the burritos have the cilantro. Also, that's a Camino and saber dart.
Isn't that so funny?
Yeah.
2 random things. I know a lot about cooking and a lot about death. Like, what? And cloning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And why did the Kaminoans have saber darts? Who are they hunting?
Nobody. They literally never leave their little
They never
island.
leave. And the only other thing that you see on there is that giant manta ray that can swim and fly.
Which is very cool.
Very cool. But yeah, so you have a crazy moment where Zam and Jango's combination, higher out, leads to Anakin and Padme going to Naboo, where they start
kissy.
They start having the chemistry growing, because up until that point the chemistry is not there.
Please don't look at me.
You've grown more attractive.
If you look at me again, I will strike you. I will strike you in the face.
He literally tells her, "You've grown." She says, "My goodness, you've grown," and he says, "So have you. More beautiful, I mean." For a senator, I mean. Dude, and Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, God, Anakin, your pickup lines are trash."
Yeah, Obi-Wan's not feeling it. Not in the least.
He's totally in the back of his head being like, Duchess Satine she's much hotter than Padme. It's not even close. Anyways, so you have...
see those macaroni noodles she wears in her hair? Oh, my God, that does it for me.
She's a pacifist.
We agree on literally nothing.
But we both use our pinkies. She's literally a Mandalorian. Isn't that crazy? So you have Padme and Anakin going to Naboo.
That's what's crazy, though, is that this one action is 2 of the most important things
They're
in Star
so
Wars.
scared of those bugs that they go to Naboo.
Yeah. Go to a whole other world. Me too, though. I hate spiders. Have you ever seen a giant centipede in life? Like in real life, in person, in the wild? I have. It's terrifying. They're monstrous little creatures. They're like this long.
One time I was on a missions trip to Botswana, Africa, and I saw a black mamba in real life.
Did you race it?
No, I nearly peed my pants.
Did you toss it a basketball?
No.
See what you can do, Snake.
Let's see what you're about. That's funny. But...
dribbling the basketball?
It would do great. That's what it would do.
Like the snake from Robin Hood? Using his little tail as a propeller.
Yeah. But, so this sends things off into an... I mean, think about that. Really... Maybe the biggest change in that whole movie is Obi-Wan goes to Camino, meets the legendary Jango Fett, father to the greatest bounty hunter in the history of the galaxy. And then you have Anakin and Padme who go to Naboo and really start expressing their affections for one another. And Dex knows about the Kaminoans, which is crazy. And then you had that lady, what's her name?
Jocasta Nu.
Dude. What a lady. I don't care for her at all.
It's a pretty classic librarian, though.
When we fast forward to episode 3...
If it's not in the archives, it simply doesn't exist.
But she was so rude about it, though. Like in the
yeah, but it's her life, you know what I mean?
In the Vader
she
comics...
takes pride in it.
In the Vader comics, you root for her. But I remember in episode 2 being like, all right, screw you, lady. Like, she's so rude to Obi-Wan, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, you should be, you idiot. So whenever episode 3 happens and it's like, execute order 66, I was like, start with that librarian. She's so rude.
Hurry up, Anakin. Get there.
Ugh. Just, people like that just annoy the crap out of me. Like, when you go to college and you have a question for your professor, and they're like, oh, you don't understand, like, quantum physics already? You're 18 years old. What's wrong with you? Idiots. So, that's a huge one. And then, here's a big one.
Here's an unsung hero. That fireplace.
What?
I'm just kidding. It was like a bonding moment for Christensen.
That's really funny.
And Padme.
Why did you call him Christensen?
I don't know. It's there. Or the violin player in that scene where they kissed, and it's like... And she pulls away, it's like... Doop. That music dropping out was one of like the funniest moments in all of Star Wars.
Like,
John Williams is like... You just see him drink. Stop. It's like freaking Spider-Man when the guy that's the one with the ring, and he's like, tell him to go get the ring, and Peter Parker's like, and he goes, tells all the people with the freaking ring in the wine glass to go back.
So funny, dude.
Oh
man. And then you have Unsung Hero with one leg, Klieg Lars.
Oh yeah.
Shmi is my wife.
I earned her with the work of my hands.
I knew you were gonna go back there.
Had to be done.
But he buys Shmi from...
What a romantic gesture.
She's hot. I'm gonna buy her.
He's like...
Watto, I'll give you my 2 best goats.
It's like a reverse dowry, I guess. I don't know.
Watto's like...
No, they won't. She can't carry anything anymore. I'll take it for a goat and a half.
She goes out there and he's like...
Foreshadowing.
She goes
One
outside
of the goats is missing legs.
She goes outside and Klieg's like...
Hey, would you go get the mushrooms off the moist evaporators?
And Shmi's like, I don't want to. And he's like,
Don't say I never did nothing for you. I bought you with the work of my hands. You want to get married or something?
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
It's hard for me
this
to
could
be
go
like...
down a dark path quickly, so let's just move on from it.
It's hard for me to imagine. But anyway.
You want to get married? The answer is yes. Say yes or you're sold.
Talk about heavy-handed leverage. Oh, my God.
I heard the Jawas are looking for a helper.
Ugh.
Unless you want to find yourself looking at those rats all day. The answer is yes, Shmi.
So anyway, he acquires her through some
Through the work of his
means.
hands. We've established
But
that.
then he also loses her.
Through the work of his hands.
Through not working with his hands. She was out there picking the mushrooms out the moisture evaporators by herself.
Anyways, yeah, I had
Frickin'
Taco Bell yesterday, been crapping my brains out. She goes out to get some mushrooms to help me clear up my indigestion. And
Lars decided he would sleep in. His wife gets stolen. That's why you always get up when the alarm goes off, gentlemen.
Yeah, the early bird keeps their wife. So, Klieg Lars, sweet guy, what a man. He buys and marries, he frees her and marries her, to quote Watto, and then it's interesting because not that he really did anything special, but what the actions that he did really changed the outlook of Star Wars forever, because shout out to the Tuscans, if they had done their part.
You know what? I'm just going to say it.
Go for it.
The Tuscans single-handedly defeated the Empire.
Go for it. Keep going.
Think about it. You got to get the hands out there. They sacrificed their lives so that Anakin would turn to the dark side, and then Anakin, having taken steps towards moving away from being a proper Jedi, has kids.
He feels bad. He
so
comforts
that he
himself.
can go all the way to the dark side when he thinks they're dead, and then redeems himself and kills the Emperor, saving the galaxy. So I'm going to say it.
I don't care that you broke your elbow.
I don't care that you broke your elbow. These Tuscans
The Tuscan
saved
Raiders.
the galaxy, the whole village.
The Tuscan Raiders maybe did the greatest thing. The greatest thing
They
that ever happened
defeated
in
the
Star
Empire.
Wars.
And listen.
And not just the men,
Not just the men.
But the women.
but the women
And the children
and
too.
the children too.
Oh, God. God.
They defeated the Empire.
Yeah, because listen, if you don't have the whole blow up moment where Qui-Gon's like, Anakin, no! Then,
Can you imagine, like, Force Ghost Qui-Gon in slow motion? He's like,
dude, he's like, Anakin, no! Anakin, hey! Oh, jeez, stop! No, you've killed so many!
I think about it like when you see the dog in the house and he starts sniffing around a bunch and you're like, hey, what are you doing? And then their back starts to hunch up and you're like, no, stop it. And they're already pooping though and they're like, and then you make that awkward eye contact. I had my dog one time, he was like pooping in the house and he was by the door though and I was like shoving him out the door and there's a little trail of poop all the way out the door.
Except for the poop is dead Tuskens, women and children too.
Dead Tuskens.
He's pooping up dead Tuskens. The Tuskens lay down their life so that Anakin could comfort himself in Padme's embrace. They get married. They have kids. Luke goes on to defeat the Emperor with the help of Darth Vader.
Can we also talk about how Shmi was like, do you think we'll see each other again? And he's like, yes. She's like, well, then we'll see each other again. And then they do, but she's dead.
Yeah, they do see each other a little bit.
What a loophole, George. George Lucas would be the worst genie in a bottle. You want to see your mom again? Watch her die.
You'll see her again, you understand, but she's been raped by Tusken Raiders. Okay, come on, you knew what happened. And then the last one for episode 2, I would like to note that he's in at least 2 episodes doing the unsung work. That's why he's a fan favorite. But you have Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar's the opposite of a Tusken, where he single-handedly threw the galaxy into ruin.
He grants emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor.
If only there was a diplomat, maybe a handsome Gungan, brave.
He just butters him up. Long ears like this, and a big bushy tail like this. You think
maybe
you could...
a mouth like a duck's bill.
Ears like a
ruined pancake.
like
maybe Glass was pouring the batter.
Maybe ears like the dribble off of spray paint, just hanging down your backside. Maybe big tumors for eyes. But yeah, Jar Jar grants emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor to create the... It's really crazy because he's like, I guess I'll have to create an army. And the comedians are like, oh, whew, good, because we have 1.2 million of them. Why 1.2? Also, why not 1 million or 1.5 million? That
or
really
7
bugs
million.
me. Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, 1.2 million is not really that many.
Not that many.
To conquer a galaxy.
Yeah. Well, they've definitely... I assume they created more.
Well, it was
as time went.
500,000, 200,000 with 1 million more well on the way.
Yeah, 1.2.
Yeah, but like 200,000 were already ready.
Right.
1 million well on the way.
So they're definitely creating...
Yeah, there was definitely more afterwards,
more
but
coming.
still.
But so that's pretty crazy. The emergency powers that give Chancellor Palpatine the ability to enact the Grand Army of the Republic, which is the greatest faction that the galaxy has ever known. And then you have right after that, if Jar Jar doesn't do that, then really episode 2 is a waste because all of the Jedi that you need in the world are killed on Geonosis. And man, what isn't that kind of so? It's so sloppy of the Jedi to be like, all right, Obi-Wan and Anakin are on Geonosis. Let's all go get killed for them.
I don't think that it was like that because all the Jedi that were there knew that Yoda was coming with the army. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So they had that plan up their sleeve.
That's true.
Let's talk a little bit about how Obi-Wan's quips saved the day for episode 2 for me, which is where he makes 2 great jokes back to back. Where Anakin's like, we came to rescue you, Master. And Obi-Wan looks up at his handcuffs and he goes, good job.
Good job.
Freaking savage. And then he's like, what about Padme? And then Obi-Wan's like, she looks to be on top of things. And she was literally on top of things, man.
Dude, you know what always surprised me? How wimpy that cat thing was. The Nexu?
You know what we can talk about also, though, is the fact that as soon as Obi-Wan had a lightsaber, he went straight for the arms.
Of the Acklay?
Of the Acklay. Straight
very
for the
smart.
arms. No, that's very Obi-Wan, bro. He's
just straight for the arms?
Chopping limbs, bruh.
Anybody got a drink? Anybody watching this? Jedi business. What's the scariest? I predict this arm's coming off. What's the scariest of the 3 animals in the arena?
Acklay for sure.
Really?
Yeah. If you played on frickin' Felucia, Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2005, terrifying.
I'm interested.
Acklay for sure.
I don't know. I think the Acklay is the scariest, but the Reek is the most intimidating. Does that make sense?
No, I would. If I had to pick, I would choose that Reek 10 times out of 10 before I go with that Acklay. But that's probably part of my arachnophobia.
I wonder who wins in a fight, Acklay or Reek. Straight up fight.
I think the Reek's just not nimble enough to take on an Acklay.
Yeah, but he's like 1,000 times stronger. Hey, did you know that they swim?
What?
The Acklay.
Yeah, because they're based on spiders. Spider swim. Have you ever seen it? It's
they
terrifying.
Can swim.
You're literally never safe from a spider.
One of us sent this to the other one. This was like probably a year ago, but it was like
a spider walking on water.
No, it's a thing about the Acklay where it talks about that that they not only can they walk, but they can swim. They're not just reptiles, but they're also classified as amphibians, and they're also some of them have known to be force sensitive. Did I send you that?
Yeah,
and it was like, I don't want to live here anymore.
Don't live on this planet, people.
But Jar Jar granting the emergency powers obviously make the Clone Wars possible.
Also, we could talk about how R2 saved Padme's life in the droid factory on Geonosis.
Oh, yeah. With the dadgum shutting down the factory and whatnot.
Yep. He had those secret jetpack boosters that nobody knew about.
Oh, yeah. Which come to great use in the next installment, which takes us to episode 3. Right off the bat again, R2-D2.
Yeah. R2 saves the day again. He's vindicated himself after almost letting Padme die.
Yep.
And we're in the beginning of episode 3. We're on General Grievous's flagship, and he's in the hangar. It's him versus 2 B2 battle droids, which is pretty stacked odds for anybody.
Do you prefer battle droids from episode 1 that are like completely robotic, or do you prefer battle droids from episode 3 that have the attitude? Like, remember when he
welcome.
Yeah, he gives the lightsabers to Grievous, and Grievous is like, snatches them, and he's like, you're welcome. Dude, that's so funny.
It reminds me of, I worked with these 2 girls, and one of them was from, like, the South, and then the other one's from the North, and the girl is from the North just had, like, a more abrasive personality, and she would, like, grab things like that, and I remember one day the other coworker was like, quit snatching. And I just heard it from the other room, and I started dying laughing.
Because that's how she accepted everything, was just a snatch?
Yeah, she would hand me this pen. She'd be like, no, I'm doing it.
I'm just kidding.
I'd be like, hey, can I see that pen? And she's like, thanks.
Ugh. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. So she was like, quit snatching. I knew exactly what she was talking about, so I started dying laughing. But yeah, so...
R2... He gets out and he
not only
First of all, R2 could win the World Series of Poker because he's like, oh, I don't know, beat doop, and then he's like,
hope you like my urine, B2. My flammable urine, that is.
That is kind of funny. He does kind of, for a droid, he's like...
He just pooped all over that B2
He gives them the old Braveheart where they're like, and they hold up their kilts and they're showing the English their wangs.
And their booties.
You like this?
I don't like it for the sake of that guy, but I think it's funny when he gets the arrow stuck in his cheek because he doesn't turn around in time.
Yeah.
Freaking hilarious.
That is really funny.
What an embarrassing battle wound.
But you have R2 with the elevator. Right after that, making sure that the Jedi are saved and things like that. Also, it makes me wonder, first of all, props to Palpatine. Oscar award for just sticking to his like, oh, help me, holding on. I would have been trepidatious of his abilities being like, 80 years old or something like that, and he's like, just holding on, like, yep, no problem, I'm just hanging in here. When they're like vertically in the elevator. But so that's really cool. And then I'll just take the next one because you're really fighting for this one.
Real quick. We've talked about it in the Dooku episode, but let's talk about how Dooku's commitment to the dark side saved the day. He knew he was about to die, but he also stuck to the Sith motto of if he didn't win, he doesn't deserve to live.
If you didn't win, then you didn't win. He didn't deserve to win.
He could have blown the whistle on Palpatine right then and there, but he didn't.
Blow the whistle.
He lost his hands, but he didn't lose his ability to speak. He just held his tongue.
Yeah, I really wonder...
Which also, he tried to kind of blow the whistle in episode 2, calling out the space Nazis. Conspiracy theory, and Obi-Wan was just not having it.
Dude, talk about that. Nobody ever talks about it, but in episode 2, whenever they capture Obi-Wan and he's just in that like floating prison, and the Mr. Incredible prison.
Yeah, it looks massively uncomfortable.
And remember when he's like, "Oh, they've gone too far, my friend. This is ridiculous." And he says,
Insubordination.
he says the
Why, in my
Senate,
RAF days, his eyes are too close together.
so he says the Senate is being run by a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Sidious, and he's the one that's pulling the strings on both sides. It's actually Ian McDermott. He's playing the Supreme Chancellor. Qui-Gon would have believed me, and Obi-Wan's like, "Well, I don't believe you, and I don't care what you say. I'll die before I believe you. I'll cut my best friend in half." It's just crazy.
Incredible.
Like, I wonder, what does that mean? Do you think he was just goading Obi-Wan to try to get him to join?
It's Dooku. Dooku's playing layered games. I mean, his motives are never so obvious.
Crazy.
But anyway, so this is one that I really wanted.
This is your one.
Yeah, I take credit for this one entirely. Agree or disagree, I don't care. Let's talk about how that Varactyl helped to end the war. So, if you don't know, Varactyl is the creature that Obi-Wan's riding on Utapau. He's the feathered lizard.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for the Varactyl...
You need to make the noise so they know who you're talking about.
It's pretty good. And if he didn't come to help Obi-Wan, General Grievous would have gotten away and the war would have kept going.
Yep.
Grievous was well on his way to getting to his own personal little ship. He literally made it to the landing platform. And Obi-Wan wouldn't have been able to keep stride if it wasn't for the Varactyl. So the Varactyl ended the war.
They're so nimble.
Single pod.
And it's very cool because props to Claudia Gray for riding in the Varactyl in Master and Apprentice.
Yeah. Also, that Varactyl, much like our heroic Tusken Raiders, laid his life down for the sake of the galaxy.
That always makes me so sad.
Yeah.
In my heart of hearts, I always just believe that he made it. You know?
I imagine he's a strong
Are we going to
sword.
have to wait till 2045 to get the certain point of view from Episode 3? Because I want to know what the Varactyl's thinking. Maybe a 20-year anniversary.
I don't know. Maybe.
Crap. It's already been 20 years of Phantom Menace and they haven't done it. Frick.
Too late.
Maybe 25 years. And it'll be... but then it'll be 25 stories. Oh. That's a toughie. That is a toughie.
Yeah, so...
If you're out there, Disney Books, please let us know what your plans are for a certain point of view from the prequel trilogy, and also answer my emails. Thank you. And then this is another good one. The Wookiees are... Man, I just feel so bad for the Wookiees because they were being attacked by the Separatists. I am surprised, though.
The Wookiees get the shaft, like, throughout.
Yeah,
like, that
they really
never
do.
stops happening.
I really wonder about why, if the Wookiees are so... I guess maybe they're just not as numerous? Because why would they need the clones to help them fight the Separatists? Maybe the numbers just aren't there?
I guess not.
But in every, like, Star Wars, like, War Game or Battlefront or anything, Kashyyyk is, like, a major... You win that, you pretty much win the war. Mm-hmm. So I understand the importance, and of course Ki-Adi-Mundi had their back, asking about the droid attack on the Wookiees.
The droid attack on the Wookiees.
But I do wonder often...
Where was Gondor when the
Shut
droid
up.
attacked the Wookiees?
But when the crap hits the fan and the clones have started to turn on everyone, our boys Tarful and Chewbacca really put themselves at risk and put Yoda first, and they know it's important. And I think Chewbacca, throughout the movies, you kind of have a sense that Chewbacca understands things on a grander level than the average
He
guy.
definitely has an aura of patience.
Well, not just, that, and it's like he just kind of sees the bigger picture, like even more so than some of your mains. Like Luke and Han specifically, Leia probably sees the bigger picture more than most, but Luke and Han both are like, well, I'm going to get my credits and get out of here. And then Luke's going to be like, well, I'm going to get my power converters and get out of here. And Chewbacca's like, I've been around for 200 years. You're like, you got to figure it out. But
First, I got to get out from under this water.
he coughs up. He's like, God, I've had a loogie for 35 years. But yeah, they risked their life to get Yoda to that escape pod, which sends him back to Coruscant, I want to say.
I think he makes it onto Bail Organa's ship, and Bail
There you go.
left. He bails him out.
Man. Speaking of Bail,
Bail, let's talk about it. He was kind of the real MVP.
Dude, the unsung hero.
For like the whole last third of the movie.
Yeah, it's interesting because you always have, whether it's not necessarily individual sports, but team sports, there's always that player that's not the quote-unquote most valuable, but you couldn't win without him.
Right.
You know?
He's like a role
so
player.
it's like he's the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan, or with this year's playoffs, you have the Anthony Davis. Like, there are games that secondary guy comes through even more than your first player. And that's Bail Organa. Bail Organa is not Yoda. He's not Obi-Wan. He's not Force sensitive. He's a politician. But he's a good one.
Yeah.
He's the rare case of someone who really cares.
He does a lot of important things. He rescues Yoda and Obi-Wan. He gives Yoda a lift after he fails to assassinate Palpatine.
Yep. He drives up in that sick Corvette.
Gets in touch with Obi-Wan, letting him not to go back to Coruscant, and gives him the coordinates so that they could rendezvous. Even after they left Coruscant, they're still on Bail Organa's ship.
The Tantive 4.
They take him out to wherever, was it Polis Massa, where Padme had the twins. He adopts Leia. I mean, like, a lot of important things.
Yeah, he adopts Leia, and he keeps her. It's interesting because he's such a good father that you would think he would just hide her forever, but he keeps her involved in things. He keeps her around, and he really has a heart for the betterment of everyone around him.
Right.
He's not, and then he showed up in Rogue One, and he's still fighting for everybody. He shows up, and he's like, now things have really started to crack down. Obviously, by the time of Rogue One, it's been almost 20 years later. The crap's never been, like, worse. You know, things have gotten worse. The Empire's fist, like Leia says, is really starting to tighten, and he's still, like, not giving up on the dream.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have to remember, the rebellion is not done well yet. You know, Rogue One is like a huge slaughter, and they get the plans, and they're like, a victory!
Right.
You know, like, until A New Hope, the rebellion's never really done anything good against the Empire and come out, you know, stronger for it. You know, you gain Luke and Han Solo and Chewbacca and notoriety. You defeated the Death Star after A New Hope. But even after Rogue One, it's like they get the plans. They don't know if they're even worth anything. They don't really know what's on there. It's been like a crap hole to get there. Everyone dies.
Yeah.
Radis is taken. Like, you lose one of your best commanders. And Bail Organa's along for the ride. Whatever it takes. He doesn't care. And he's probably the best friend to the Jedi.
Yeah, as far as politicians go, for sure. Yeah, when you think about his influence in Leia's life, you have to think that he worked with Padme and Anakin both at their best.
Yeah.
And he knew whatever kid they had was going to have an important life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he wasn't so protective of her out of fatherly instinct that he limited her potential. If anything, he trained her and made her who she was meant to be.
Yeah. And then we're getting down to the last two. These guys are two unsung heroes, but Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru Lars.
Yep. When it comes to raising orphan boys, they're on fire.
Oh my god.
They're killing it. Luke, raising you is killing me. We can keep going forever. Where there's smoke, there's the Lars homestead. Oh, that's so funny. But I think that we see Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru in episode 4, and they're so, like, gruff that you're like, this guy's a douche. But he really does amazing things, and what a sacrifice. Like, life on Tatooine already sucks.
Yep.
And they're like, you know what we should do?
It's really
Adopt a
hot.
kid. It's super hot. You know, people just burst into flames at all times.
Yeah, you probably feel like you're burning to a crisp constantly.
Hey, you know what's really funny is that there's a clip when I think it's from episode 2 where Owen tells Beru that he plans on painting the inside of the ceiling, inside of the kitchen. He's like, yeah, I'm going to paint this tomorrow. And then if you look, the ceiling is the same color in episode 4. So for 20 years, he was like, I'll do it tomorrow. And he never paints the inside of the kitchen. I think it's in episode 2. I'll have to go back and rewatch it. But there's a moment where he's like, yeah, I'm going to paint this or whatever. He just says something off the cuff, which that's cool because that's, what's his face? Joel Edgerton, the guy that's the brother from Warrior. And he plays Pharaoh in, what's that called? Gods and Kings. He's in other stuff too. I can't remember. But so Owen and Beru, really, they take in Luke. They raise him as their own. I don't know if they could have kids or couldn't or didn't or whatever. But really, like, when you're out on Tatooine, you're kind of like, don't really want to have kids. You're barely making it as it is.
Tatooine seems pretty barren.
Dang, the double entendre, huh? Homophones. And then lastly, the GOAT. Qui-Gon Jinn fighting back from beyond the grave, reaches out, has been taught by the Wills, and, hope beyond hope. He reaches out to Yoda from the netherworld of the Force, and is holding it down. And unsung hero, man. If Qui-Gon does not, it's kind of interesting because I'm sure he could have just
even had
he could have just
an influence on things as the Tusken Raiders.
Oh, I mean, that's a tough call, but yeah. Qui-Gon, you think about it, he could have just entered into his rest. He could have just become one with the cosmic force and not really mattered with the living force at this point. But he's the right thing is the right thing kind of guy. He always has been. And so he learns from the Wills how to communicate life after death.
Yeah, well, and his individuality is really what makes him who he is. You know what I mean? Like, so much of the Jedi, at least in the time of, like, the end of the Republic, basically, is conformity. You know what I mean? That's the whole idea is
just getting by. Whatever got to do
be a part
to
of
survive.
the Jedi, and it looks individual. Like, there's that little thread that you showed me the other day about how the Jedi perceive the Force differently, but he was so unique in that even his relationship with the Force was so different that he was the first Jedi in all of history, to learn how to retain individuality after death.
Yep. It's interesting because part of it's his person. Like, I think him being so true to the Force and him being so true to himself really set him apart, because it's not like he could go search out the Wills after he died and be like, all right, now teach me how to, like, they saw something in him to be able to teach him something. And so Qui-Gon is the one who teaches about when you die, you become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And his teachings really lend to Obi-Wan feeling that way. And Obi-Wan feeling that way is what leads to his sacrifice on the Death Star. And his sacrifice on the Death Star makes him be able to communicate with Luke from beyond the grave at the end of Episode 4. And when that happens, you defeat the Death Star. In Episode 5, when Luke is on Hoth and he's been attacked by the Wampa, Obi-Wan's willingness to be a sacrifice now makes him able to communicate with Luke on Hoth.
I always thought it was funny how unworried Obi-Wan was in that scene. He's like, hey, you're going to get over it.
You'll be all right.
Go on to Master Yoda.
Yeah, exactly.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
You'll be fine.
Peace out.
I once cut a man's arms and half of his leg off. So it's just really crazy that that all works together. But the unsung heroes of the prequels, there they are. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video. You can find our audio podcast literally anywhere. So we're now on the Amazon train. So Amazon, Spotify, Apple, and all the second tier listening platforms. So thank you guys for tuning in. May the Force be with you.
And, the only family you have here is me.
You guys have a good one.